Hey guys, Stealth here. Today we're doing a guide on infantry versus infantry warfare in towns. I have asked my friend Snake Eye to come help me with this video because it's very difficult to test this against an AI. Now what we're going to be doing is sending in infantry versus infantry to show you their effectivity. They're just going to be doing 1v1s, either from building to building block or within the same building block. Let's speed this up a little to get these guys in fast. I have a Kiowa over here, and we have turned off weapons so that these things cannot fire, nor can his, so that we can start the game or start the battle when these things are actually in the same sector. Okay, maybe I didn't turn off the weapons yet. Nor did he. Zanshis are coming in. Now let's have a look at these units. These are standard chasseurs, line infantry. I couldn't get the chasseur 90s because those were special to the French deck, I believe. Now the chasseurs come with MAT-49 submachine gun and the NF-1, how do you call that? Yeah, the machine gun, the basic machine gun. And they are facing Zanshi 85s with QBZ 81s, which are, if I recall correctly, basically AK-47s. And they have the Type 67 machine gun. Now, the difference between these two troops is that Snake Eye has them at regular training, but they are hardened. Or veteran, sorry. My chasseurs are hardened. So they don't have as much veterancy as the Zanshi, and you will notice the difference. So let's have a look at how this battle turns out. Here we go. Battle started and the Zanshis got their first kill off. Now you can see that the chasseurs have an accuracy of 58 on their assault rifle, or sorry, 58 on their machine gun, 40% on the submachine gun. These guys have a lot better accuracy, and you're gonna notice how fast my guys are going down due to that accuracy. It does take a while for these guys to kill each other though. Now I'm going into his section, try to negate his advantage with the assault rifle or with the machine gun. So as you can see, the machine gun only has the stat tag, which means it can only be fired stationary, and it does not have the CQC tag, which stands for close quarter combat, and that's when you can use a weapon in the same sector. Now as you can see, the chasseurs are heavily panicked. These guys are just worried, and this is really showing the difference between veterancy levels. The more veteran your unit is, the better its chances of not panicking, and the less panicked it is, the more effective it is in combat. So my chasseurs are going down. Lesson to be learned: do not put up troops which have inferior weapons, such as submachine guns. Try to go as chasseurs 90s, or with better armed infantry if you're trying to take a town this way. Let's speed this up to the next important part. I'm bringing in another helicopter. This time it's going to be Delta Force versus the remains of the Zanshi. And I just wanted to show you guys this. I know it's not a fair fight, but I want to show you how fast these Zanshi go down versus the damage they can do to Delta Force. Delta Force have elite training. You don't have a lot of these guys, and I have them at also the elite veterancy level, so they are really effective against these Zanshis. Now I'm going to pause it for a minute. You see that these Delta Force have a CQC tag on their M60E3, which means that they can use that weapon in close quarter combat. So whereas the Zanshis only had their assault rifle, these guys had the MP5 SD, their submachine gun, and the M60E3. So they could use both to deal with the infantry. Now I may have managed to win this battle, and you can use Delta Force to wipe out a town if it's only defended by units such as line infantry. But let me show you what happens next. We're going to bring in another unit, and these are going to be Jians. Now if you're not familiar with these guys, they're elite Chinese special forces. They come with the FHG-84 Napalm launcher. These are extremely effective anti-infantry forces, and they're more effective than Delta Force. Ready for the countdown. It's 9 Delta Force, they're calm, versus 10 Legions. Calm. Weapons on. Legions fire. Immediately I start losing Delta Force. Fast. Now one thing the Legions do need is supplies, because they only carry 10 of these napalm missiles. But they only had to take 6 out before, or they only had to fire 4 to get my Delta Forces out of this sector. Now this works so well because they not only do morale damage but also HE damage, a little bit. And that HE damage is more than enough to quickly stun my forces, and the napalm of course will help with suppressing the Delta Force and suppressing virtually any other infantry. If you want to get Legions out of buildings, you don't use infantry. I've tried pretty much all the infantry against these guys over the past couple of games I had. Legions are just not to be messed with, not using infantry. You use a weapon such as the Centurion AVRE against these guys. You use the Combat Engineers vehicle from the Americans. You use artillery, either mortar or howitzers, or you use a bomber. That's all you can use against these guys. Do not try to go after them with infantry. Of course, a tank can work, but it's never a good idea to have a tank in such close proximity next to a town. So you can try, but it'll usually get taken out quite easily. Now I'm setting up Gurkha's 90s. These guys have a submachine gun and a mini-me, which is also a CQC machine gun. So these can also be used in the same quarters, in the same sector as the other infantry. Let Snake Eye bring in the other units. This round the opposition is Spetznaz. Now I wanted to show you guys how effective these guys are, because some people think that using line infantry like this means they are safe against virtually all other infantry. Well, not so much against Spetznaz. Spetznaz are the counterpart to the Legions, and that means that they also have a napalm launcher. They have the RPO Rice. 4 HE power, which is even higher than the HE power that the Legions have. Napalm rounds, CQC machine guns, and a very decent assault rifle. Now, my Gurkhas are not going to live long against this kind of firepower. Gurkhas have already lost 7 guys versus only 2 Spetsnaz. That's how effective these units are. There, they only lost 3 guys. So Spetsnaz are perfect for wiping out towns. And since they're basically the same unit as Legion, the same rules apply. Take them out with infantry, a bomber, an engineer's vehicle if you can get close, mortars, anything that does high HE damage. Next up are assault pioneers. These guys carry flamethrowers, which can fire at a very short range. One thing that's not actually mentioned well in the game, but that you do need to keep in mind when using these units, is that flamethrowers do have CQC capabilities. They can be used in the same block, although it doesn't say that on the unit chart. So you can fire both the assault rifle and the M9 flamethrower in the same sector, and that makes these guys quite effective at taking out other units. But with only regular training, they're quick to panic. We're sending these guys up to meet their counterpart, which is going to be the Czech Granatomets. These are the grenade launchers. Wait for this chopper to unload them. Here. Granatomet AGS-17. Carry the grenade launcher. I covered these already in my Czech deck, so I'm not going to go too far in depth in these guys now. Main thing you need to remember is that they have a grenade launcher, which does high HE damage at a very high rate of fire against infantry. They're only a squad of 5, so I would usually go with 2 squads of these per building block. And the ideal situation for these guys is to have one of them, say, in here. One group of line infantry, so that could be Zanchis, that could be, well, if you really wanted to, Spetsnaz, but then you wouldn't need Granatomets. Have these guys as supports. But as you're going to see, even on their own, without support, they're very effective against assault engineers or pioneers. Ready to go. Now, I already lost 4 assault pioneers to 1 grenetomet. Now at this point something weird happened, because it seemed like they couldn't see each other anymore. So sometimes the assault pioneers fire, and these grenatomets have completely stopped firing while their weapons are still active. Now, this is an example where I can show you that the Flamethrower is still very effective in the same sector, but so is that grenetomet. Again, it doesn't say it on the chart, but it is a CQC weapon. You can use it in the same sector. So you can use both of these quite effectively to clear a town. Do not send either of these up against a vehicle, because they'll die. They have no way to defend themselves. The grenatomets might be able to take down a vehicle with their HE power from the grenade launcher. But otherwise, I'd try to keep these guys at range. Now you can see 4 grenatomets lost to 10 assault pioneers lost on my side. So these guys are really very effective. Next I'm going to bring up another group of units. We're going to see how well, I believe the Fallschirmjager were next. Oh, assault engineers, sorry. Difference between assault engineers and assault pioneers is that the assault engineers have a napalm launcher, where the others have a napalm thrower, so a flamethrower. These have the advantage of having a little higher range and more HE power, but the disadvantage is that it's only a 5-man squad and that they run out of ammo pretty quickly, which leaves them only with their M16. Now I'm showing you this replay in a situation which is quite extraordinary. You would never have these guys coming in a group of 5, or at least I wouldn't. And they would probably not be facing off, they'd not be waiting in a group of 5 versus these VZ-Kadis. VZ-Kadis are shock troopers, CQC Lada RPK machine gun, and a Lada AK assault rifle. Now let's see how effective these guys are against each other. Come on guys, here we go. Assault engineers are firing the napalm launchers, and they are really messing up these VZ-Kadis. They only got 5 left, and I lost 2 assault engineers. But this is where it gets tough, because I already fired 4 of my 8 rockets. These guys are getting worried. The VZ-Kadi are shaken, which is less bad than worried, so they can fire their weapons more effectively. But as you can see by this small circle around this building, they're hiding in the back. Now, we weren't quite sure why this happened, but later we figured out that they were probably trying to take down this chopper because they couldn't see the engineers. They went to the secondary building. So instead I decided to move my assault engineers across to see how effective they were in the same sector. And this is where there's an important difference between assault engineers with launchers and assault pioneers. Assault pioneers can use their flamethrower in the buildings. Assault engineers cannot use their launcher. So keep that in mind when using these guys. Keep them at range. Don't have them engage in CQC in the same sector. Keep them at a bit of range. Use that napalm launcher to really panic the enemy. And then finish them off with other infantry. Now these guys are American. So if you're using an American deck, you can first kill or stun the VZ-Kadis with the napalm launcher, and then come in with Delta Force to finish them off. As an example, I would have a group of Delta Force here. I would, when these guys are starting to really go down, which is about now, I'd move these guys to this sector where they can just hop over, switch my Delta Force up, and then finish off the VZ-Kadis without taking a loss. Now this was pretty close, but in the end the VZ-Kadi do win it. Now the engineers are in trouble, or the engineer I should say, because it's only one guy left. He's out of flash napalm launchers, so he only has an M16. He's shaken, he's alone, he has 36% accuracy. VZ-Kadis are panicked, but they still have a 50% accuracy in there with the two of them. So that is why they will lose, or why the assault engineer will lose this battle, this encounter. There you go, he's down. Next up is a Deckungsgruppe. Now, never ever use these in close quarters. I'm showing you this because I wanted to see how effective they were going to be against a weakened group of shock troopers. And these guys only carry a small submachine gun, the MP2A1. They carry the Carl Gustav, and they're really meant to be used against vehicles, not against infantry. That submachine gun they're carrying is really supposedly only to work against other infantry as a last resort defensive weapon. Instead, I'm using them as frontline troops against a panicked group of 2 Vizatkaris, but I was unsure what was going to happen, so I had them fight it out. Now, these submachine guns can be used anywhere, so they can also be used in the same sector. You don't have to keep an eye on whether these guys have a CQC tag. Traded 1 for 1. 2 Deckungsgruppe for 1 guy. 50% accuracy on their side, 46 on mine, but they can fire 2 weapons. I'm not entirely sure how this would look. This guy is firing, and keep in mind, there's one guy. He's firing his assault rifle and a machine gun. Not sure how that works. Now the game glitched out a bit here, but I did manage to take out that infantry with taking only 2 losses. So I traded 2 Vizatkari infantry for 2 of my own Deckungsgruppe infantry, which is okay actually. Next up. Let's see. Yeah, another Fallschirmjager coming in. Fallschirmjager have the MP2A1, which is exactly the same submachine gun as this Deckungsgruppe has back here. But they also carry a very good machine gun, the IMG3. And you can use these with their insane rate of fire in the same building because they have the CQC tag. Now, I know that this is only the Fallschirmjager Standard Edition. You can use the Fallschirmjager 90, which are more effective, but they're also more pricey in the prototype units. And I was just using a general NATO deck to show you all the different kinds of units you can encounter. Snake Eye is offloading another group of infantry. These are coming with the Mi-8T. Come on. Loading them a bit closer to the front line. What we have here is a group of Fanghua beings. These are the counterpart to the assault pioneers, which we saw earlier with their flamethrowers. These are the Chinese units. They also have a assault rifle and not much else. Really only to be used in forests and in towns to clear out infantry, nothing else. But they're about to meet the best of the best, the Fallschirmjager, elite veterancy, elite training, Fanghua Bing, regular training, and I believe they are hardened, or veteran with 4 stripes. These Fallschirmjager are really showing them who's boss, even though they're receiving napalm fire from the Fanghua Bings. Now in this situation I also wanted to see how effective they were going to be in the same zone, where my Fallschirmjager should have a bit better accuracy, but they're still taking napalm fire, which is dangerous for these guys. Whoa, switch it to 2 times. 98% accuracy. By now these guys are probably going room to room, clearing out any of these engineers they can find. I only lost 3 of them versus 10 of those engineers. So if you want to really clear a town fast of other infantry, anything pretty much other than Spetznaz or Jians, you can use Fallschirmjager to do the job. And of course there are some other units who can do the job as well. I know of the Fallschirmjager that they have the IMG3, which is a very good machine gun. You can use Commandos Paras, you can use SEALs, but they are a recon tab. I didn't use those this turn. But other nations have their own variants, their own types of units they can use. Now they're up against FJB-40s. If you've never seen these units before, they're the counterpart to the SAS. They are East German commandos. They carry the Strela 3 and RPGs, so they can really be used effectively behind enemy lines. But I was wondering, can they also be used in towns? And how well would they do? So they're going up against dedicated infantry killers in the form of the Fallschirmjager. I have two weapons I can fire, the MP2I1 and the IMG3. They can only fire their MPI AK-74N. They don't have any other infantry weapons. So you can probably guess where this is going. Their units are dropping a lot faster than mine. Okay, it was accelerated, but I did manage to take him down quite easily. And I still have two Fallschirmjager left. So these guys already took down a group of assault engineers, the Fang Huabings, and they now just took down a group of FJB-40s. So they're really good infantry killers. Last up are the Commando Marines. These are also very good infantry killers with the AA-52 machine gun and their SG-543 assault rifle. Now these weapons themselves already have a very high accuracy, 60% and 40%. But once you're using them on such a short range with such high veterancy, because these guys are elite, they can really be effective against infantry, and especially due to their 15-man size, they can really tank some. They can take some damage, do some tanking, and the best way, if you were Redfor, if you're coming up against these guys, is to take them out using artillery or Spetznaz. So here we go. We're up against Jians, elite North Korean troopers, CQC rifles, but less accuracy than I do, and they're only 10-man squads. Jians cost 30 points. Commando Marines are a bit more expensive at 40 points, but that's because you get a little better weaponry and a little more strength out of these units. Here we go, weapons on. Let's look at the morale. Commando Marines are worried, shaken now, and these guys are shaken and even panicked because they're taking so much fire. Just look at the accuracy of these things, 76%, and that's in a shaken situation. So they're not getting too confident, but they're still very effective against these Jians. So that's that group out of play. Now, what I wanted to show you with this video is how to use which unit against which unit. If you have them and you have availability in your deck to bring a card in, it's always nice to have engineers. Now, which version you pick is your choice, but I much prefer the Assault Pioneers, which have their Napalm launcher, versus the Assault Engineers, or I might have just mixed them up, I'm not sure, with their Napalm throwers, their Flamethrowers, because you can stay at a bit more range from the other infantry. If you want to go through a town and you're using the Americans, use Assault Engineers in a combination with Delta Force. If you're using any of the other nations, try and get some dedicated infantry killers in your deck, because almost every map has an urban zone which you will try to want to capture. You don't have to have them, but they will make the job of clearing urban areas a bit more easy, because they're better suited to do that job than standard line infantry or shock troopers. Now, of course, you can also set up another example of this with other units, because these are only 8 different NATO units against 8 different USSR units or Redfor units. So there's all sorts of opportunities and availabilities, and you can always change veterancy levels and see which works best. Some final tips. If you're going to clear out a town, first try to get artillery on the target. Mortars are best because they don't have a large blast radius and you can really contain the fire to, say, this building block. First pour on the mortars, have them panicked, then come in with infantry killers and you can wipe out a town. Use napalm launchers as morale damagers. Try to keep them resupplied. Especially for Spetznaz, Jians and Napalm launchers, this is important because they will run out. And at that point they're just standard infantry. Sure, they're still trained, they're still elite units, possibly with high veterancy, but their main gimmick, their main effectiveness is that napalm launcher, so make sure you have that thing available. Now, I hope you found this thing useful. If you did, please let me know. Please hit like. If you want to see more of my guides, you can see them in the playlist which I've included in the description below. And if you have a suggestion for another video, if you have a question about this gameplay, if you have a question about which infantry to use best in which situation, leave it below in a comment and I'll try to help you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.